All right, Fred.
All right, everybody, we're going to have fun. So I don't know if you know this or not, but for a living, I run a company. It's called the Institute for Excellence in Sales. So my company was created about 10 years ago. We are a member-based organization. So we have companies like Amazon, Salesforce, IBM, Oracle, companies with sales organizations, and we do programs for them. We have a global women in sales program. We have a sales leader program. We have a young sales professional program. So my day job is about helping companies, employers attract, retain, motivate, and elevate top tier sales talent. So hence why I have two books coming out this week. One is called Insights for Sales Game Changers. And I also do a podcast called the Sales Game Changers Podcast. Spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. And by the way, I want to thank everybody on the call here, Mel and Myra and Jackie and James and Jess for sharing, my Facebook posts about the books. Angie, thank you all so much for that. It really means a lot. I appreciate it. But for the day, I help companies, our organization helps companies be more successful at sales. So I typically deal with sales professionals, people who say, I am a sales professional, help me and help my sales professionals on my team get better. But we also deal with a lot of organizations where people are like, I'm not in sales. It's like, I'm not in sales. I don't want to be in sales. Well, as I just said in my breakout group, if you have children, a spouse, or parents, you're in sales. And we'll talk about that throughout the course of the next 20 some odd minutes or so. So we're going to go through an exercise that I've done maybe 50 times at companies that are consulting companies or services companies where everybody says, I'm not in sales. It's I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the car salesman, et cetera. And we talk about the value of sales. So this is going to be an interactive workshop for the next 20 some odd minutes, and hopefully we'll have fun, and hopefully we'll give you a different view on the process that probably most of you aren't thrilled with, which is the sales side of getting people to give you money to pay for things. We all want to get the money, but the whole process of it. So we're going to have fun. Who wants to have fun? If so, please just raise your hand. Okay. Myra, are you raising your hand?
Mm-hmm.
I'm raising my hand.
Okay. All right.
You can't see, but I am raising my hand.
All right. So first off, let's see. Boom. Sell me this pen. This is not sales. So when you think of sales, a lot of people think of this, Wolf of Wall Street. Hey, Jess, what do I got to do to get you to buy this marker? Well, if you want to sign the contract, that ain't sales. That's a common misconception. Always be closing. Alec Baldwin from Glenn Ross. It's like ABC, do you want to have beans for dinner or steak? A lot of people think that is sales. And of course, everybody thinks of sales as being this guy, the car salesman. It's like, what do I got to do? Jackie, what do I got to do to get you in this car? Well, you got to jump up on the water cooler naked and spin around if you want me to buy your car. No, it's like, people think car salesman, icky, used cars. That's what sales is. I don't want to be that. Well, I'll share with you that isn't really the way we view sales. We view sales as a noble profession. And there was a great book that came out a couple of years ago. Who here is familiar with Daniel Pink, various things that he's written? No, wow. So the first book that he wrote was called Free Agent Nation. And it was about the concept of working for yourself, the solopreneur. He also wrote a book called Drive. He was big with Oprah for a while. He was a speechwriter for Al Gore in the 90s and just hated it. Just started getting sick at work and then just started working for himself. He wrote a book called To Sell is Human. And he basically came out and said, everybody is in sales. Selling is not easy. That's why the people who work, if anybody here works at a large company, the people who make the most money are the men and women who are out there selling to the big customers, to the government, to financial institutions, to entertainment institutions, to the American Expresses, to the Disneys, to the Bank of America, because it ain't easy. It is very, very hard. But as Daniel said, you can learn to sell without being icky, pushy, loud, or arrogant. So I want to do an exercise here. So Jess, how do we open up the chat? It's pretty easy to do, I guess. I'll tell you what we could do. We can open up, we can turn off me sharing. I'm going to stop share. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up the chat. So the first question in the chat, what words come to mind when you hear the word salesperson? So go to the chat and type in, what words do you hear? Obnoxious, Herb Tarlick from WKRP in Cincinnati, briefcase, persuasive, aggressive, extra, Cal Worthington. I don't know who that is. Used cars, money, manipulation. Yay. I want to be a professional manipulator. That's what I want to do for my readers. I want to manipulate lying patients to buying my book. Pushy, sociopathic. Gee, that's great. What do you do for a living, Bill? Well, I'm a professional sociopath. Oh, that's great. Well, tell me more about that. Do you like being that? Oh, absolutely. Guy in a suit. Yoshikage Kara. I'm learning new things. Money, nothing wrong with money. Pushy, skill. Okay, Jackie's getting us closer to where we're going to be in 20 minutes with Connector Helper. So who wants to comment on that? Who wants to chime in with some of the things that, who's the person who wrote sociopath? Amy, tell us why you typed in, you could all unmute yourself, by the way. Why did you type in sociopathic?
Well, I mean, they have an agenda and you are there to further their agenda. It's not necessarily about what you need.
Okay. Who here wants more people to read their books?
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't want people to read your books, please raise your hand. All right, very good. So there's a process that needs to happen. For that to happen, you wrote the book. Now you got to get people to go to Amazon or your own site or whatever it might be to physically give you money. And you know what? That's a great thing. Who here is happy when people buy their books? Who here is, raise your hand, please, if you're unhappy when people buy your books. You know, you feel sociopathic. When someone buys your book, who here feels sociopathic? All right, good for you. All right, next question. Go to the chat. What makes you most uncomfortable when you are selling? What makes you most uncomfortable? People, farts. Thanks, James. Is that all the crickets that we're hearing? Is that James actually? You don't want to come across as pushy. Okay. One man's pushy is one man's trying to be of service. Trying to connect to people I don't know. That's the beauty in exposing people to your work. Asking people for money in a recession. Okay. If they want to pay you, though, they want to pay you, right? I don't want to be thought of as spammish, being overbearing. Who here wants to be overbearing? Please raise your hand. The crickets. All right. You know, it feels like I'm no longer part of the conversation, but just waiting for an opening to insert myself. You know, listening, I actually took out a slide. The number one skill that great sales professionals have is the ability to listen, is the ability. And I actually have a Post-it note right here on my monitor. And I do a podcast every single day. And the Post-it note says, wait, why am I talking? Wait, why am I talking? Why am I talking? You know, we like to say that a great sales interaction happens when the customer or whoever it is you're talking to speaks 95% of the conversation. You know, a lot of people think that selling is, okay, I got someone I'm talking to. I'm going to have like a half an hour meeting. I got to get all my messages out. Here's why my book is so great. Here's why my product. That ain't it, man. It's when the customer tells you things and you're able to listen and then find an opportunity to provide some value for them. Being judged for wanting money, what I wrote, Connie Clark, talk more about that. Who's judging you? Is the person who's buying your book saying, I am judging you because you're asking me for money?
I think it's a matter of feeling like asking for, it's easy for me to sell somebody else's product, but when it comes to selling my own, and then feeling like, okay, what if it's not good enough? Or what if, you know, people judging for, what right do you have to ask for money for something that you created? I don't know. It's just a self-confidence thing. But I know that I'm not the only one who has this
I can
issue.
say your book's better than the books that millions of people didn't write.
That's true. That's a good point.
And you can always say, you're the one that bought it.
That too.
Did I ask you to
That-
buy it?
Well, but if
No,
you did, no,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's interesting how we think. So I have two books coming out, the sales book, and I have a book on Lyme disease, which is coming out this week as well. And it's for spouses and family members and partners and friends of someone who has Lyme disease. And I'll tell you my thinking, even though I'm talking to you about why sales is noble, it's a noble activity. The VP of social media from the largest Lyme organization in the world is writing a positive review for my book on Thursday. And she sent me a note saying, FYI, I'm going to write a positive review on Thursday. And I wrote back, I said, great. What'd you think of the book? And she wrote back, I think it's going to help a lot of people. She said, but to be brutally honest, I would have liked for you have to talked about more of the topics in a little more depth. And I was thinking like, oh, it's like brutally honest. But then I said to myself, she's writing a positive review. So even though, we feel good about ourselves, we sometimes go to the thing. One thing we talk a lot about on my podcast, the Sales Game Changers podcast, is I have this statement over there on that side of the office, which says, let's celebrate the 99 wins versus the one loss. So it's like, yes, if somebody bought the book, that's great. And you're providing a promise to them. All right, next question. And by the way, I'd love to hear your questions from me. When it comes to selling, what are your biggest hurdles or challenges? So type into the chat, when it comes to selling, and we've already established that we're all in sales. We already established that in order for people to buy books, we need to be selling books, right? We need to be selling our products. We need to be selling our vision. If we're writing about something, we need to sell people on the concept that we're going to be providing something that's a good use of an hour of their time. All right, people are typing in really fast here. Let's see what we got here. Being judged for wanting money. Okay, technology is a challenge. Myra, you can explain that when we're done reading these. Balancing time marketing with time producing, sure. Getting in front of the right audience. Now that's actually a huge thing. The number one rule of sales that we talk about when we're prospecting is targeting the right audience. So many people spend the wrong time trying to convince the wrong people to become a customer. Even in big companies, it's like, oh, I got a meeting with IBM. I'm excited. Well, you're talking to someone who's 3 levels down from the decision makers. So that really isn't a great use of your time. Getting to the right audience, finding the right audience. I hate cold calling, but that's what I do now. That's what I need to do right now to get noticed. So you know what the worst thing is about sales? Cold calling. You know how many people in sales love cold calling? 0.0% of people in sales love to cold call. That's why we outsource it to people in India and the Philippines and things like that. People hate to cold call, but you know what they love to do when you're in sales? Have a conversation with somebody who wants to talk to you about your product, or having a conversation with somebody who needs your solution. We love that. That warm leads, people who've reached out to you and said, tell me more about your stuff, but picking up the phone and dialing people who don't want to talk to you, who are busy. That's the worst part of sales that there possibly is. Finding time to do it, presenting myself like the book is the book. Well, you are the book. Finding people to buy. Yeah, it's always hard to find people to buy. And there's a whole bunch of things that we can do. We can network. We can join groups. Jess is an expert on funnels and things like that. And someone mentioned funnels. Actually, it was on a call I was just in. But,
I need some context on funnels.
All right, we'll talk to Jess offline. She knows more about funnels than I do. Knowing your worth, selling to the right people. Jess, talk about that for a second.
I guess I'm in a couple coaching programs. I'm a shopaholic when it comes to coaching programs. I'm in one, they're all fantastic, but I'm in one where I feel like it costs what it does because my coach is a confident, rich, white guy. And I'm in another one, half price, with 1,000 more resources. And I just wonder, why? Is it because you are a woman and you're underpricing yourself, or is the market underpricing you, or what's happening? And how do I know what to price? I don't want to under or, and I definitely don't want to overprice. So that is a big question mark for me.
It's interesting. So I was a consultant for 14 years. And in 2005, I had the opportunity to offer my marketing consulting services to a large company. And I knew somebody who was in the company. He's the one who made the introduction to me to the company. And he got me a meeting with the president. The president liked me. And he said, send me your proposal, because we definitely need someone to do what you do. And I sent the proposal, and I sent it to my friend first, a guy who is 20 years older than me. He was an outsourced chief operating officer. He said, "This is great. Double your price." I was like, "Double my price?" He goes, "Yeah, double your price." He goes, "You're pricing too low." So I went back to the Word doc. I made one edit. I changed, I'll tell you what it was. It was 8,000 to 16,000 per month for this particular service. And he said, "Great." He goes, "Send it to Jay," who was the president. I sent it to Jay thinking like, oh my God, it's like way out of the range. And Jay wrote, "This is great. Can you start on Monday?" And the great thing was it was a 2-year contract. So it was like being on heroin. Not that heroin's a good thing, but for 2 years, I was getting paid from this one client, this amount of money, which I've been trying to get replaced. And you know what? All I did was double the price, and they were so appreciative of me. So, it's in your head. I'm not saying bad in your head, but your value, everyone's value here, it's in your head. And I work with some people who sell millions of dollars worth of stuff every year, and they're more successful because they know their customer, they're committed to the marketplace, they really know what they sell and how it's used. They're professionals. They're just not winging it. A lot of people think that sales is charisma. Again, it's not, what do I got to do to get you to buy this marker? It's about understanding the needs of your customer, understanding how your product, how your book is going to solve problems. Who has a book that's going to solve problems? Who has a book that's going to make people happier? The question is like, why did you write? If you just wrote because, you're bored and, someone told you to gift, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. It's like, I have a ping pong table. Sometimes I bang it against the wall just to stay busy, but we're all bringing value to the marketplace. All right. 2 more questions. Think of a great salesperson you've encountered. Think of a great salesperson you've encountered. How did they make you feel? So go to the chat and type in, think of a great salesperson you encountered. Could be something in the mall, could be someone who came to your house. If you're in sales, I know there's some people here who are in IT. If you dealt with an IT professional, salesperson, how did the great salespeople make you feel? All right. Someone said special. Supported. He was there for me. That's beautiful. Cared for, attentive to my needs. Excellent. Let's see. As an equal, they appealed to my soul. Knowing, okay, let's see. Blah, 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 this. Blah, blah, blah. Made me feel like I was making the right decision. Felt that I was an equal involved in the decision process. They appealed to my soul. Let's see. Listen to. Let's see. So, if you think about it, the great salespeople didn't make you feel icky. They didn't make you feel like you did something you didn't want to do. Here's the reality. People don't do what they don't want to do. Customers will not buy if they don't want to buy, especially now. One of the big trends, FYI, in professional sales is that 15 some odd years ago, the internet became humongous. And if I want to buy anything, I can go to the internet, not just a car or a book or a microphone or something. If I want to buy like an enterprise software solution, I can go to the internet and type in, is this solution from Oracle? Desiree's in IT. If it's anything good, if it's a good, and I'll see thousands of people talking about it. The sales professional sometimes doesn't even get called until the customer is 60% down the path of making decisions. People don't buy from companies. People buy from people. Like I mattered, said Don. Hey, Don, when someone made you feel like you mattered, how did that feel? Where's Don?
It felt good. And having been in the sales, that's what I try to do. To me, it's building relationships as much as it's not necessarily the price, A lot of companies are just price driven. To me, it's the value that you're offering in your service or your product, and and you build that relationship. So hopefully, unless it's a tight bidding process, then you get down into the weeds, and sometimes it's not worth it.
Absolutely. All right. Last question. And just type in one word or two words. What are some emotions you feel when you purchase something you love? What are some emotions you feel when you've purchased something you love? Could be a great book, could be a car, could be software. Energized, great, happy, satisfaction, joy, satisfied. All right. So that's what sales is. It really isn't what they said. Thanks, Patricia. Satisfied and happy. That is thrilled. That really is the sales process. Sales isn't about, making people do something they don't want to do and support it. And there's a process that goes in with sales. You can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, would you buy this for me today? No. Okay. Would you buy this for me today? No. That's where you feel icky. When there's no process and there's no need and there's no plan and there's no strategy for doing it, excited. Yeah. When you have like a process to make it happen and sometimes you got to get yourself pumped up. Sometimes before I call a big company, I play Eye of the Tiger or Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I know James plays guitar, maybe some songs that James knows how to play, but basically I sometimes got to get pumped up too, to be in a good space. Sometimes I need to sit and like, okay, before I call Microsoft today, I'm going to put myself in the mindset to making it happen. There's nothing wrong with that. We want to show up with energy and we want to show up with compassion and we want to show up with empathy when we're interacting with customers. But here's the thing, man, and men and women, it's a gift. Every time, think about this. I'll tell you a little story. I had a little, a book selling thing, not a book, like a book signing thing last Thursday night. And we had about 30 people who are customers of my Institute for Excellence in Sales came to an event, and I, sold a bunch of books just as a gesture. And we went around the room and we introduced everybody. Some of the people here who were Facebook friends with me know that about 3 weeks ago, I did a family and friends book launch, and I posted a lot of pictures. One of my customers' wives came to that. She was also at this thing that I did last Thursday, and she had gotten the book at the friends and family thing. After she introduced herself, she then took the mic again and said, hey, for everybody here, I want to let you know that I've read this book 10 times and I have it highlighted and it's in my car, and I'm going to buy a copy from my mother and I'm going to buy a copy from my coworkers. And I was thinking like, wow, isn't that great? Isn't what we want people to feel as they're reading their stuff? Angie, is that what you want people to feel when they're reading your beautiful stories?
Yeah, something like that. The big thing for me is I want to feel that it opens something in their hearts. So, and I've seen that, which makes me happier than anything.
And the process to get that to happen is you have to be comfortable in making it available, which is what professional selling is. So I'll open up for questions here at this point. If there's any questions people have about the sales process, about some things you could be doing. But the one thing I just want to leave you with is, if you think about this, everybody on this call and everybody in Jess's communities, you've done something that probably 99% of the world hasn't done before, which is like physically write a book. Now that I've written two, I'm like, yeah, I wrote 2 books. People are like, oh my God, it's like, oh my God, how many people have gotten that? Oh my God, I can't believe what it means to write a book.
Like anytime I tell people that, I remember I was hanging out with my best friend and his wife, who's a lawyer, and I met my best friend's wife's mother, my best friend's mother-in-law, for the first time. And she asked me, oh, what do you do? And I said, I'm a writer. And that was a great feeling because that was not what she expected.
Yeah. And then you got to take it to the next step is you got to get that book in people's hands and you got to get them to read it and you got to get them to appreciate the work that you did. And that process, that's a noble process, man. You're providing a service. You're helping somebody achieve something that they wouldn't have had any access to before. And that's what selling is, getting your ideas out there to those people. And it truly is a noble profession. So this was fun for me. I'll take any questions or thoughts, or who here is still hesitant to be in sales? Good. Alvina, do you have a question? Unmute.
Yes. I'm struggling right now with the copy, like when I write copy for other people, it seems to be simple. But when I'm writing copy for myself, like I always I go over it like 10,000 times. So like, and now I'm even considering to do more video than to write. And that's like, I never considered that before because I like writing. So what tips would you give me for my copy, or should I transition to the video?
Yeah, I would say, first off, if you're going to write copy, I would do it 990 times less than 1,000 times. And there's probably some people here on the call who would be a great editor for you to probably knock out something very good, by the 10th time, probably by the 5th time. And I would definitely move to video. And I know Jess has a lot to say about that, but here's the thing. Prior to the pandemic, I was doing a lot of live programs in the DC area where I'm based. And that's what my company was known for. We did 50 live programs per year around the Beltway, the DC Beltway, and some got 15 people, some got 500 people. When the pandemic kicked in, we started doing a daily webinar that we converted to a Sales Game Changers podcast. Every Tuesday, we did a show about women in sales. Every Wednesday, we did a show where I interviewed sales VPs. Every Friday, we did a show called Creativity in Sales, where we talked about sales tactics and things like that. Every Thursday at 2:00 for the last 2 years, we do a show on mindset. It's called the Optimal Sales Mindset. The most important trait you can have is a optimal sales mindset, which means that what you're doing is good enough, and getting it done, what do they say? Perfect is pretty, but done is beautiful. So yeah, we all want to produce great work. We don't want to have typos in our books. We don't want to have, bad grammar, et cetera. And, you don't if you have the best editors, et cetera. But you got to get these things done. Going through a piece of paper, a copy 50 times, that ain't the way to do it. Working on a video, some of the people who have great videos now have the absolutely most horrible videos the first 10 times, but they started doing them. Just got to start, man. Don't be afraid. Have the right mindset that you're bringing value. And yeah, you're on mute. Video and Rick, but just get it done, man. Get it out there. No one's going to judge. There's 0.0 people who are saying, oh, Alvina, I noticed that she turned her head to the left and there's a little more space in the upper right-hand corner. Nobody's that. Everyone's like, they're going to give you a minute of their time because they want to give you a minute of their time. I used to be a DJ after college, weddings and bar mitzvahs and the whole thing. And this is when they had turntables. The most exciting thing is when we went from one song into the next and it was perfect. Nobody cared. The only person who cared was me. It's like, that was like the best mix, going from Jam on It into Stairway to Heaven. I remember that one time at the Archbishop Ryan senior prom, went from Jam on It into White Lines, into Stairway to Heaven. None of those kids even knew what was going on. Same thing with you. Get it out there. If it's valuable for the people, don't be afraid. Have the right mindset that you're providing value.
I still can't believe you were a DJ. I want proof.
My big joke was people would say, oh my God, is Fred Diamond really your name? I would say, no, my real name is Tony Diamond. Was my joke, because they thought I changed, the diamond. Nope, I was the bar mitzvah king of Northeast Philadelphia.
As long as you didn't say Neil, my friend.
I can see that.
Neil. And I've listened to Celebration. I'll do something. Hey, by the way,
Caroline.
Hey, this is a lady's choice. So that's always the.
I want to hear you do the transition from Jam on It to White Lines to Stairway to Heaven. How the heck did you do that?
Oh, it was, first of all, Jam on It. It slices down and White Line slices up, and Stairway to Heaven's like the worst song to play. I think this was 1984 through 87, but people wanted me to play Stairway to Heaven. It was 7 minutes. It took care of 1/30 of my party, but and for all the cousins, but anyway, back to Alvina's question. It's like, people aren't judging you. Someone said that before. People aren't judging you. You're judging you. Get it done. Get it out there.
I think, and I've been guilty of this my entire life, always worried too much about what other people think. Going right back to what your parents think of you. Are you a good kid? What your teachers think. Then it's your kid, your wife, and then it's your kids, and now it's your readers. And at some point, you have to say, I don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks. Right?
Amen.
Yeah, but you want to be respectful. You want to be respectful of your audience.
Absolutely.
But as far as, it was like last week.
There.
Yeah, it's like when last week when I got this comment from LymeDisease.org, she said, to be brutally honest, I wish you had expounded. But then I was like, I got to get a thicker skin, because if she's criticizing me and she's giving me a positive review, it was like, what the hell am I? What's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right, Don. It's like, if you're putting yourself out there, you put yourself out there. And I like to have one expression. I have expression. If one person listens to my podcast and one person listens to my podcast, now I want 3,000 people to listen to my podcast, so that I can get sponsors and all those kinds of things. But, if you're affecting one person, you're affecting one person. But it's, as Avian asked the question, you got to have the mindset that you're doing this because you're bringing value and you're adding something to the world. And anybody who writes a word is adding something to the world. And actually, Desiree, I have all my albums from DJing still downstairs in the garage, and White Lines of Jam on It were both 12-inch singles. So,
Fred, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Talking about mindset,
Yes.
I know historically when you think of salespeople, you think of extroverts, and when you think of authors, you think of introverts. So, can you talk to how those personalities play into salesmanship?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there's a huge misconception that everybody who's great at sales is an extrovert. And there was a book that came out by a guy called Matthew Pollard called The Introvert's Edge. And he actually proved that the best salespeople are introverts. And the reason is because it's not about you, it's about them. And you're willing to pontificate, you're willing to think, how can I help this person? Everybody who's great at sales, they spend their time thinking about, how can I bring value to this person? How can I bring value to my audience? And an extrovert, which in a lot of cases, you're thinking of yourself first. It's not about you. We always say this. It's always about the customer. And I'll give you a little bit of a thing. Who here thinks that I'm an extrovert? If so, raise your hand. Okay, I ain't, man. I'm as introvert as anybody. But you know what? I know that you got to be out there. For people to hear your message. That's why I do a podcast every day. Is I know that you need to be out there. So I don't even get nervous about it because I've done it so many times and I know how people are responding and listening to me. And, when we get 2,500 people listening to the podcast and hopefully thousands with the book, but most great salespeople, according to Matthew Pollard, are introverts. They're taking the time to think, to be empathetic. One of the main traits of great salespeople is being empathetic, putting yourself in the person's shoes, thinking about the reader, thinking about your IT customer. What are they going through? One of the biggest challenges of the last 2 years in sales was it's no longer just about the customer. It's about the customer's customer and the customer's customer's customer because of the supply chain. So, you got to be thinking about how everyone's struggling with what they're going through. That's a great question, Mel. Thank you.
Well, I think this past year, I've learned a lot about myself by becoming an entrepreneur. And I've realized that entrepreneurship is one of the best personal development journeys you will ever go on. And following people like you and other heart-centered, authentic salespeople has made me realize how amazing sales is. We're all selling, like you said. And some people are selling because it's a service. They're selling as a service. They're not just trying to get something. There's givers, there's takers, there's people who are a bit of a mix, but there's a lot of salespeople who are givers. They do it because they're trying to give.
Now, that's a great point. And actually, on my podcast, we've done over 550 shows and 200 have been with VPs of sales. And you don't wake up one day and say, I'm kind of done working at the convenience store, and now I'm going to be a VP of sales at Microsoft. And I saw somebody had said that their brother, was it you, Angie, who said your brother works at Microsoft?
If you want me to connect him, maybe
I absolutely would.
He lives in Vienna in Austria.
Oh, I live in Vienna, Virginia. So yeah, please make the matter of fact, I'm actually meeting somebody from Microsoft for breakfast tomorrow. Please make the introduction. That would be great. But back to what Jess said. So as I'm interviewing all these sales professionals, one of the questions I ask is, tell us about your mission. And the great ones, they all say, I am committed to my customer's mission, especially if you sell for to government or education or healthcare. They don't say, my mission is to make the world a better place. They say, my mission is to help hospitals improve their patient care for whatever the reason might be. Or my mission is to help energy organizations make find alternative energy to save the planet. Or my mission is to help pharmaceutical companies solve problems to help people's mental health with drugs, whatever it might be. But the point is, they're all mission there. So that's an important thing, and it's heart-centered has become a really important thing. So thank you for saying that. And the salespeople there's no salespeople that I know who have been able to stick it out that are about, buy this right now. Now, maybe there's pressure because at the end of the month, you got to sell more, but hopefully you're also providing the value to your customer, because the customer ain't going to do that anymore. They're only going to buy if they believe that you're committed to who they are.
Well, Fred, I don't want to keep you. Are there any final questions or praise for Fred? Fred just released his.
Yeah, thank you, Fred.
I'm going to drop Fred's new book in the chat, which I haven't read yet, but I did read the Lime book and it's fantastic. And that's coming out next week.
It's coming out this week. I learned the Kindle version is available, and the print on demand version may be up now. Amazon's reviewing it. So it may be up it may have gone up in the last hour, but it's probably going to be the next day or so. And we're going to do a press release, and like I said, LymeDisease.org. And by the way, I reached out to LymeDisease.org 9 months ago, which is what's leading her. She knows me, she trusts me, and she's willing to do a review. And she also said the book was very good too. But, it's not just like I called them and said, could you do a review? It's been 9 months in process. So a lot of these things that you want to get, you got to get started. Back to Alvina's point, just get started, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Fred. And your posts are always so inspiring. I love seeing your posts on Facebook.
Thank you. And I appreciate everybody here who, I know, like I said before, Myra and James and, people are Jackie are very kind with sharing, which means a lot. It really does. Thank you. And I try to do the same thing for years if we're Facebook friends together.
I just put you on, I just friended you. So I'm looking for your friend request to reply to that. And as you put that stuff up, I have some people across the country that would be more than interested in your book. So I'd be happy to, I don't share a lot, but there's certain things that I'm happy to share. And I'm uncomfortable doing that, sharing a lot of cases, because we get so inundated with stuff.
Well, some people put their life story on Facebook, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah. But the thing is,
I don't care where you went for vacation. It's nice. I don't care if your kids came to see it. That means if you're telling me somebody's going to rob them,
Well, that's why they have private. That's why they have private groups.
Exactly. Yes.
So on the feed, but.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Facebook, Dawn, the other day somebody asked for a World War II story, and I mentioned your book because it was true. They didn't say if they wanted, a fiction or true, but I said, hey, you'll love this story, man, because it's about real people, and it tells about before they went to the army, then they landed on D-Day. So,
well, thank you very much.
Maybe it'll do some good. I don't know, man.
I love
a little bit helps, right?
I love to hear that this group has fostered genuine friendships where people want to share each other's work, and we're not even in the same genres, but we want to share just because we love each
Mel's
other.
got a couple out. He's he's speed writer lately.
Oh my gosh, Mel has got so many out.
I know. It's great. And James, I'm going to tell you, you got to make your stuff shareable. Talking about sharing, I can't share your stuff. It comes up and it's like I want to put it forward and they can't. And I don't send on Messenger because it gets whacked.
Yeah, same.
And don't give me that. So go figure it out, buddy.
Figure it out.
Go figure it out.
Hey,
right,
if
so
you
James,
knew what I went through tonight to get to this meeting, I'm surprised I'm even here.
James, make an author page and make it public, and then everything you share, we can share.
All right, so James, you have some homework for the
Yeah,
week.
Me too. Is
you're
that,
not-
is that an Amazon page, Amazon author page you're talking about?
No.
I
Oh,
have
that too.
Author page. Oh gosh.
Because I'm getting information on your stories, but I can't share them. And I have a lot of people out there I have a pretty big audience who love reading. So if you know, but I'm not going to send them to 100 people. I'm sorry. I'll hit a button, but that's limited what I'm going to do, y'all.
Okay.
I understand.
No more picking on James for the night.
Thank
I
you.
know, because he missed us last week, so we got to pick on him now.
Well, Fred, thank you so much. You know we
Well
love
done,
you,
Fred.
and I
Thank
really
you, Fred.
appreciate you doing this tonight. It was really fun, and
Thank
I
you.
can tell
Good
you
job, Fred.
you love what you're talking about. You had a half smile the whole time.
I just want everyone just as we're wrapping up, just, be proud of what you're doing and communicate that to people who can get value from what you're doing. Don't lose sight of that. Someone mentioned that before, but it's a valuable thing, and be proud of it. And that's part of what sales is.
Oh, well, Fred, thank you. And everyone, we'll see y'all next week. We have our next reading session coming up. So if you're interested in reading, that's the last Monday of the month. If you're brave enough to do a 5-minute reading in front of everyone. In the meantime, have a fabulous night, everyone.